Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme, looking at bands, styles of music, anything that we just don't typically listen to on the channel from people and cultures that typically don't get a shot to be represented here. Today we're going to be looking at some Latin American death grind, which is really interesting combination of things there. I don't think we've had too much Latin American music on the channel at all, but certainly not within the metal realm. So this will be interesting. The band's called Brujeria. The track is called La Migra. Let's dive into this. It's only 1:40, which I guess makes sense since it's grind related. See what's going on with this.
¿Cuánto quiere ese coyote?
10,000 pesos.
¿Pa' todos?
No, jefe, pa' cada uno.
Pinche coyote ladrón. Hay que joder al güey. Coyote soltero te chingan la feria. Siguen al brujo, te llevo pa' gratis. Trae tu abuela, tu tía, el lelo. Pinches polleros se viven pa' feria. Te cobran tu sueldo y largan tu abuela. Pinche migra te está esperando. Te devuelven después de una paliza. La amiga y tu abuela en el desierto. La mandaron a Tijuana pegado con palos. El brujo tiene contrabando bien bueno. Número seguro y cartas verdes. La amiga, te pegan bien duro. La amiga, te pican el culo. La misma amiga te pasa por lana. Perdidas de feria te compra todo. Siguen al brujo, te llevo al norte. Cuidado con ese alambre cortado. Ay cabrón, ahí viene la droga. Atrás pinches pollos, ahí viene la migra. Carga a tu abuela, órale tía. Ya aplastaron el helo. La migra, te chingan los pollos. La migra, te
It's a really tight bass kick. All right. Not a lot to break down here, as is expected with death grind. Probably one of the reasons why we don't see too much grind on the channel at all, other than it's usually, I think, live stream is where we see it most often. There's just not a lot to dig into. We have the one riff, da 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 da. So we have the root note, and then a higher to a lower, and then the root note, and then a lower to a higher that's beneath the other two. So we kind of have this cyclical idea of, rising and falling, and then rising and then falling, and rising. It's all rising and falling here. That's the verse. That's 70% of the track right there. We have a nice bass underneath all of this with a little bit of movement to it. The bass sounds great. I think it would sound better on a lossless version. I'm pretty sure this is fairly compressed. How old is this video? Oh, the video is 16 years old. So YouTube compression was even worse back then. I'm sure this sounds great if I were to listen to it on Spotify or Deezer, or maybe even Bandcamp if they release it there. But it's still quite audible. Evidently so after the first chorus, when it's just the bass guitar, but even during the sections where the guitar is dominant, you can still hear it in the mix, and I really appreciate that. But it is on the simpler side. There's not a lot of movement to it. Drums, energetic, pushing forward. That's about it. It's an incredibly consistent drum pattern. There's not a lot of variability to it. There's not a lot of complexity to it. It's kind of punky, but it also has a snare on every beat, which is very metallic. Syncopation on the bass kicks though. Then you have the vocalist, and they're just kind of doing their thing. It's raspy, but I wouldn't call it a growl. There's still some traditional vocal cord work in there. It's gnarly though. It's gritty. It's got bite to it. And then the only other thing we have is the galloping sound that we saw at the end of the track, but It sits under the La Migra section where they just repeat that over and over and over and over. And there's this da-da-dum-da, 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 this little gallop thing going on there. And it's just high intensity. It keeps the energy going even in this low energy section. The guitars are pulled out so we don't have that movement anymore. It's just the bass guitar and the drums, and this rhythmic device keeps it feeling like there's a lot of momentum even though there's not a lot of energy here. This works really well going between the first chorus into the second verse, as it keeps the intensity going forward, the energy, the momentum, the drive, while we can still have some rising and falling action. It's a lull in the midpoint of this track, but it doesn't feel like we slow down. It doesn't feel like we're losing energy or tempo or anything like that. At the end of the track, though, it's kind of interesting that that's just how they end the song, on this empty, spacious gallop. I don't know what to read into that, other than maybe that's just how we ended the first chorus, so that's how we're going to end the second chorus. That's the only thing that makes sense to me there. And that's it. That's the whole track. I broke it all down. It's energy, it's drive, and it's consistent simplicity. It doesn't try to overdo anything. It doesn't try to do anything more than the bare minimum it needs. In one sense, you could probably describe this as minimalistic. We need energy, we need drive, we need momentum. We accomplish that in the most efficient way possible with the least amount of moving gears. And I think they do a fantastic job of that. Let's hit some lyrics. This is a song about trying to evade the immigration police as you try to cross a border. Presumably, given the imagery in the video and Latin American here, probably talking about from Mexico into America here. The first verse says that they're thieving, that they'll steal your money, that if you follow the brujo, he'll take you for free. You can bring your grandmother, your aunt, your neighborhood fool. They'll get them in. They'll get them across the border. Once again, though, calling them crooked smugglers. They live only for money, that they'll take your wages and ditch your grandma. But the immigration is waiting for you, and they'll send you back after a beating. If you get caught, you're not just getting turned around, being told to head back the other way. There's going to be some violence coming at you too. It says that immigration found your grandma in the desert and they sent her back to Tijuana, but not before they beat her to a pulp. The brujo, as mentioned earlier, does have some good contraband though, like security numbers and green cards, fake identification to help you get through the border. The chorus comes in and just says immigration, they hit you hard, they'll mess you up. And then a laugh. Not sure what the laugh is. I remember it in the song. I'm just not sure how it pertains to what's being said here. Verse 3 says that this same immigration, though, will rip you off. They will buy you anything you want for a bribe. They'll even let you in if you have the right amount of money, but if you don't, they're your worst enemy. It says, so follow the brujo. He'll take you up north. Just watch out for that barbed wire. Oh no, here comes a truck. Back up, watch out, get out of here. Immigration's coming. Get your grandma, hold her, get your auntie. They've already crushed the fool that they caught back there. Then the song ends on the chorus. Again, immigration, they'll screw you over. It's interesting because it's part narrative, where it's telling a story in sort of a disconnected way. Like a narrator just describing something. But by the time we get to the second verse, and especially the third verse, it almost seems like a story being told in real time. When he says, watch out for the barbed wire, here comes the truck, watch out, get your grandma. It's like, it's kind of shifted from this dispassionate description of things into a real-time description of what is happening right now and the urgency that's going along with it. We've kind of shifted from poetry to dialogue, still featuring the rhythmic cadence of the song, but the perspective and tone have shifted drastically here. It's really interesting. But the song is about attempting to evade immigration police as you try to get some people across the border, and the difficulties and a nightmare that this can be. as I mentioned, or as they mentioned, being caught isn't just being turned around, it's also being beaten first. And it doesn't matter who you are. It says that a grandmother was deserted in Tijuana, beaten to a pulp. So it definitely has a negative, albeit accurate, view of immigration police. It's interesting because it is a real world issue done in death grind, incredibly fast style of track here. The tempo was a bit slower than I was expecting, but the song still goes through at a blistering pace. It is only, 100 seconds long. It's incredibly short of a song, but it also has some comedy to it. It's not entirely serious, even though it is a serious topic. And the music video, I think, embellished some of the slightly more comedic elements of the lyrics and went in that direction with the visuals too. So it's an interesting combination of things here. All right. Oh, we hit double digits. I really wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to look down. We're only like 8 minutes into this video. That's going to wrap it up for today then. These are my thoughts on the track. What is this song called? La Migra by Brujeria. Let me know what you thought of this. Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this track? Let me know. Put all of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add, into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.